Welcome to the After Chat. I'm Michael.
I'm Ellis.
I'm Madison.
And today we're going to talk about how to behave in a political environment. You all ready?
Yeah.
Ready.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the After Chat. Real questions. Real talk. Real life.
If you could invent a new ice cream flavor, what would it be and what would you name it? I have no good answer for this. I mean, just to do a callback, I'd like it to smell like Play-Doh. Like a new can of Play-Doh.
Maybe that's just the flavor.
Yeah.
Play-Doh.
Like red Play-Doh.
Yeah. I just had Dr. Pepper float, like ice cream. What is it, Bluebell?
Okay.
I think. And it's weird that it actually tastes like a float, even though the soda is part of the ice cream. So maybe a wild card of like a soda flavor. Like, you know, when you go to, have either of you been to Kava?
Yeah.
And they have like the really nice, like made with real sugar brand soda.
Yes.
The blueberry soda. Maybe
that's my
like
favorite.
Maybe a blueberry soda float.
Oh my gosh.
That could be good.
And maybe like blueberry dreams.
I should have gone before you. There's no way I'm going to beat that answer. Mine might be an ice cream flavor already, for all I know.
I had a funny idea.
A Nutella ice cream would be fire.
That would be good.
And I know, like, Sweet Frog, you can put Nutella on there, whatever. It's not the same thing. Nutella flavored ice cream.
Yeah,
that would be...
I think Ben & Jerry's has a hazelnut ice cream that's like the base of one.
Okay.
But I can't remember what it is. But I very much like the Boston cream pie. Ben & Jerry's ice cream. That's phenomenal.
I like the strawberry cheesecake one.
Ooh, yes.
Pretty much anything Ben & Jerry's makes is good.
Facts.
You know, I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna break ranks here. Like, there's one ice cream of Ben & Jerry's that I got recently that just was not good. But ironically, it was my favorite milkshake as a kid.
Oh.
The chocolate banana milkshake from Sonic. Like, that was like the best milkshake. But so I saw that they had a chocolate banana ice cream called Chunky Monkey. Not that great.
That's disappointing.
It was.
My I did not do banana flavored stuff with desserts. Like, I would eat bananas and that was pretty much it. But the thing that changed my mind was banana pudding milkshake from Cookout.
Ooh.
And it's amazing, but then it also made me want to try actual banana pudding, which is like made from the Lord above. I think it's good.
Really?
Nah,
you went
banana
like
pudding's
that?
not my jam.
Is it the texture or?
It probably is a texture thing.
Okay.
Yeah, now that you say it.
Have you
So,
tried the one that Crops makes?
I have not.
That one's the best because I think because it's like sent from their facility. Like
okay.
the cookies get like, I don't know, like
Kind of soft. Yeah.
They soak up everything, but then it's like you could not cut it like cake, but it's more structured than homemade vanilla or homemade banana pudding. Anyways,
It's at that
good.
Ukrop's Marketplace.
Yeah.
Everything from there is good. All right.
Yeah.
I'll
It's like
try that.
It's expensive though. I think it's like $9.99 for like a thing this big. Inflation. I could be wrong.
I don't know how you
Political
can,
environment.
I
There
don't,
you
well,
go.
I don't know how you can afford to get banana cream pudding in this economy.
I know. In this economy?
Nice. Call back. Awesome.
You'll need to go back. I don't remember which episode that was in, but
One of the ones
it
with
was
Madison.
the women in
Women in
leadership.
Leadership.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
in this economy, you're eating banana cream pudding. My stars.
Out of 10, how would you rate his use of your catchphrase?
Unfortunately, because it was directly linked to an actual economic situation, it's got to be pretty low. I would say like a 3.
Out of 10?
I'm sorry.
No way. That's at least a 6.5.
Well, it gets funnier the less related to economics you use it in.
I see.
Fair enough.
So
This is what the After Chat is
working
about.
on it.
We're
It
making
is.
each other better,
We're-
okay?
Yeah.
we'll circle back and we'll slip one in. All right, so if you could have any animal as a sidekick or companion, what would it be?
Possum.
Yes.
A lion. Any animal? Dog, how cool would it be to have a lion rolling up next to you anywhere you go? That'd be sick.
You would have to care for the lion.
That's okay.
It's a lot of, like, money.
They're just big cats. They love cuddles, bruh. Just like a regular-sized cat does.
A regular-sized cat does not like
I mean,
cuddles.
our cats do.
That depends on the cat.
It does.
Like, my daughter's cat very much, like, but only on, Snowflake only wants cuddles on her own terms, though.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
When
if
they
you
come
just,
up to you.
yeah, like, if you just try to go cuddle her, like, she's not down for it.
When I go to
She'll
Ellis's...
headbutt you when it's time.
When I go to Ellis's house for a small group, if I sit still long enough, his cat, Bogart, will, like, slowly creep up. So he'll, like, jump up onto the other couch and then, like, cross the couch arms and then, like, slowly sneak his way up and then just start with one foot on me and, like, just creeps in. And then he, like, kind of settles right here. And I have pictures of him sleeping on me.
That's what he does.
He's a precious little boy.
Also, I could make the argument that it would be cheaper to feed the lion than actual cats. Because I can just open the back door and be like, there's deer. Here you go. Have at it.
You do have a lot of deer in your neighborhood, too.
Yep.
Yeah. Like, they are very populous
You
around
have
here.
a lot
That
of
wouldn't be too
tabs
bad.
open.
Not as many as Sarah.
I'm
Sarah has,
sorry.
like,
I
85
got
tabs.
distracted. They're so small I can only see like the first letter of the tab. Okay, I'm focused.
I'd probably go, like, there was a movie out whenever I was a kid, Beastmaster.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he had, like, all sorts of animal companions. Like, but they all served various functions. Like, he had, like, little, like, minks or otters that he kind of carried in a little satchel. And then, like, if he needed something, like, he would legit just tell them by name, hey, Ortho, Potho, go get that. And, like, they would just scurry about. But
That's
he also
cute.
had a puma. Like,
Ooh.
just a big, sick-looking puma. So... I kind of want to go Beastmaster mode on this and get different ones for specific reasons.
Okay.
I feel like a coyote could also be cool. Like I'm sold on possum because they're precious, but coyotes are like, I don't know, they're really interesting looking to me.
I feel like you would.
Like they
Like,
look
well, I would just go
sneaky.
wolf. Like if I'm going to get like an animal like that,
That could be sick.
like a wolf.
Or an eagle.
Ooh,
I mean, eagle would be cool.
that's true. Yeah,
I think I want to reach. I think I want to go back. I want a wolf.
or a falcon. Wolf. Okay, I'm still sold on possum. At one point, I will have a possum.
I mean, I feel like if you just keep setting cat food outside, like
Yeah.
eventually one will show up.
True.
It's a goal.
What's something that you love that other people hate?
Okay. I feel like love might be a stretch here. I feel like I don't mind this as much as other people do. Other people have a visceral reaction to the thing I'm about to name. A room temperature soda.
Oh
It's
yeah.
really not that bad.
It's the bubbles hurt.
Like, I
When it's-
prefer a cold one, but I'm not gonna, like, throw a fit if it's not cold.
It depends on the soda.
I think it's just that I don't want it enough if it's warm.
Okay.
Like a room temperature Mountain Dew's not too terrible. Like I could handle that. But like a Coke or a Pepsi, that's got to be. I prefer that just over ice in general.
No.
Like even cold, I wouldn't want it. Like it has to be slightly watered down.
I do like watering my sodas down. That's something I love that other people hate. And I used to work at Chick-fil-A, and we had like unlimited access to the soda machine, which was not good for me. But I would get whatever soda I wanted, and then I would always go over to the water spout and do like a quick little of water on top, and it was like the perfect.
Yes.
I like it. I think it makes it taste better.
For Coke or Pepsi, most def. But Mountain Dew, I could do a room temperature Mountain Dew or a root beer maybe.
Nah, unless there's, which I like all of my beverages with ice and very cold, so I don't agree with you. But that's okay.
Shots fired at the after chat. All right. So, have you ever engaged in a political debate on social media?
No.
I really don't think I have. And I've been on social media since I was like 13.
Have you debated anything?
I have debated theology on social media, and it wasn't a successful conversation. So I stay as far away from tense conversations online as I can.
The most intense debate I've had on social media is with my past self. When Facebook Memories pops up something whack, I'm
Yeah.
nobody hurt you yet bad enough to be talking like that. Like, come on. Like, get a grip. Pull it together. Anyways.
No, I mean I've debated like back when social media first came out. Like I got into Like I would get pulled into things like that, or find my. I don't even know if pulled in would be the right phraseology. Like I would just genuinely jump in both feet with glee. But like after just watching them for like one political cycle, like election cycle, I never saw anybody's opinion ever changed. Like through even if something was like well thought out, like no one's going to read it. Like they're just going to say something terrible, roast you, and then just, tell you to go pound sand. So like that was just like, okay, like there's no changing anybody's mind in a social media argument, no matter big or small.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever going to be a successful thing.
So, yes, unfortunately, I have been in a political debate on the internet.
How about, have you seen a political debate that you are just maybe enjoying, just a quick scroll through the comments?
Oh, most def, yes.
Like,
You're
get your
just like,
popcorn
wow, they're
and-
wilding out.
Yes.
Wow, what's going on here?
And some of those are funny. And like before you know it, you've read 20 comments.
Yes.
And yeah, like those are fun. Some of them are fun.
Every once in a while too, I'll see somebody like share a meme that, in my opinion, just doesn't sit well with me, and I'm like, I might snooze you for like a month or so, like, because now you just have to unfollow. You can't hide. I don't know. Like, there's so many different options between hiding people on your timeline, snoozing them for a little bit, like completely unfriending them. So.
Oh, so this is like a meme of like a friend of yours, like a social media friend of yours.
Well, I say meme loosely. Like, they share like a picture with some kind of bold stance and then some kind of like loosely based in facts thing that happened. Like that kind of stuff. I'm like, I don't really need to be reading this or engaging with the intensity that's happening here. So I'll just snooze.
Well, and that's kind of a good segue into where we're going.
Yeah.
So, like the political landscape that we live in, regardless of which side you're on. So, like, whenever you look out at just the way people interact and engage in political topics.
Not great.
That was a
Not
deep
great.
breath and then a head shake.
It's not good. It is stressful. And I have gone through phases where I have been super, super into it and constantly exhausted. And then now that I've like shifted myself away from that just for my own like longevity and not wanting to be burnt out and feel miserable about people all the time, like to then look at other people who are still engaged in it, I'm like, are you not just tired?
Yes.
Do you not just want to have a little bit of a break?
Well, the amount of energy that you have to
Yeah.
take to maintain that stoked level of outrage,
Yeah.
like it's a lot.
It's not fun. And I remember being in those headspaces and just hating, not people, but hating the opposite perspective so much that it would just instantly like kind of light a fire in me and fill me with rage. So I enjoy being as disconnecting current events and political news from my social media as much as possible.
So, do you think social media just exasperated the polarization of things that are already out there, or did it already always exist?
What do you think?
I think it probably amplified what was already there. I think people had all of those opinions already. They just had a place to go put it on blast where an audience could see it and where they could, if they were going to argue about it, there were going to be people there to watch.
And it's the easiest venue to argue in because you're not held responsible for most of what you say. Like, if you hurt someone's feelings, they're not literally in front of you exhibiting hurt feelings and crying. So you lack compassion. You're in your comfortable space at home behind a screen. Like, you can be... It's really easy to be the not nicest version of yourself.
Yes.
When it's done through a couple screens.
Like the immediate consequence of actions and words.
Yeah.
Like they don't happen at all. Like you can just fire off like just the meanest, most ruthless things that you could possibly say and then just walk away.
Yeah. Or you can just be like, you don't understand. And then you're really easily able to just write off somebody else's completely different perspective because it's easy to write off the humanity of other people on social media, which is really ironic because it exists to bring humanity together.
Yes.
But I don't see much evidence of that all the time.
So, I mean, one of the things that I imagine one of the potential benefits of social media would be to get people out of their echo chambers, where they're only hearing things that they particularly agree with or searching out for stuff like confirmation bias. At least there, I mean, we're seeing two conflicting, like we see people go out there and engage in conflict.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to be like in good faith. I think that's kind of what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Like no one's actually seeking understanding.
Exactly. I think it's really easy for people to be comfortable in their bubble of people who will say the exact same thing as them and get more and more angry and riled up. I think there's a difference between living in that space and like choosing to not engage with that particular topic at all. Mm-hmm. But then when you're just getting riled up in your own echo chamber comfort bubble, then when you do get exposed to someone, it's the only thing you're going to see is just you're the polar opposite of me, because that's the only if the only connecting line that there is between the two of you is the thing that you disagree on, then how are you going to see them as like a full person with anything other than just that one opinion?
That's what I was going to say. I actually think it's easier now than ever to fully personalize your bubble and completely control it so you see only what you want to see. And so when the one person does come along that might surprise you with whatever opinion they have, you're like, oh my gosh, and you're more prone to that visceral reaction.
So, I mean, I think it's safe to say, like, not good is the answer to the general question of what does how do you feel about the current political landscape? Like, just generally, yes. Like the meme of that one guy. Like where he's just showing his disapproval of whatever's happening on the baseball field. I think it was a Texas Rangers game. Just kind of a backstory to get us kind of like into the political landscape that Jesus was in. And one cool way to get there is through Daniel part 2, or Daniel chapter 2. And we're not going to read it. It's kind of long. Encourage everybody here to do so. Long story short, Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. He didn't want to tell anybody what the dream was, but he wanted to find out what it meant.
Oh, Nebby.
Oh, Nebby. Like, as one does. Like, whenever, I want you to explain something to me. What? I'm not going to tell you. Like, you got
figure it out.
You got to figure it out on your own.
It's like when Uh-oh. So, I'm going to pick on Abby, not on you.
Okay.
So, like, you and Abby have a date night, and she's like, I want to go out. And you're like, tell me where to go out. And she's like, I don't know. But then if you suggest a place, and I'm picking on Abby because I'm the exact same way about this, but you suggest a place, and then she's like, no, not that place.
This was your friend Madison saying this, not me. Okay,
I love you, Abby.
So we're all clear. What's going on here? All right.
So... Now, Nebby, I love that. He takes it one step further and says, not only am I not going to tell y'all, like all the wise men and the astrologers and the seers and all the things, I'm not going to tell you what the dream was, but if you can't figure it out, I'm just going to start wantonly just issuing out execution orders just willy-nilly. Like,
do you think that they were faking it the whole time in some capacity, and this was like when they knew he had caught on? They're like, oh, crap, he knows that we have no idea what we're talking about.
No, I mean, he's definitely...
Because if somebody tells me a dream, I can come up with any interpretation of it and be like, this is what it means. But if I just am being asked to read your mind, I'm going to get exposed.
I mean, he's definitely trying to motivate them to like figure out whether or not they're on the level or not.
For real.
And so, anyway, word gets out amongst the wise men of Babylon there until it gets to Daniel. And Daniel's like, holy smokes, I don't want to get executed. So he goes to his fellas and says, we need to have a prayer circle on this and figure out what exactly this dream is, what it means, and go tell Nebby. He's forever going to be known.
I don't know if I can take credit from that. I think that might have been from VeggieTales. I'm not sure, though.
wherever it's coming from, I love it. And it's forever nebby. And so basically Daniel goes back and says, hey, I know what the dream is. I know what it means. He says, King, you saw a statue of that had a head of gold, a chest and arms of silver, belly and thighs of bronze, and legs of feet of iron and clay. And basically what this means is it's your Babylon is the head of gold, and then after Babylon, there's just going to be a succession of kingdoms that rule this land until eventually there's one of iron and clay, not as unified as Babylon or all the other successive kingdoms or rulers. Out of that, he saw like of the chunk of the iron and clay, like a boulder of it removed, but not by human hands. And he says that is going to be the foundation of a kingdom that's going to last forever. Jesus. I mean, it's foretelling that. But iron and clay represents Rome. Like, it's not all one thing. Like, it was a wide spread out group of people. Like, anybody could become a Roman. Like, all of those things. But it's not as unified and like as all the other political systems before. And Rome, like he foretold it here, was the ruling power that Jesus ended up finding himself in. And so I just thought that was a cool way to get there. Like everything that happened that led up to Jesus' day, the environment that he was born into, it wasn't like a happenstance thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was foretold, it was known, and we get to see a glimpse of that all the way back in Daniel Part 2. And I thought that was just a cool way to get us to the time period of Jesus.
I love that. I love being able to go into the Old Testament and see the things that connect straight to the New Testament. It's so cool.
In that, like there was a political climate. So like we just mentioned, it was under Roman authority. They had like a vassal king set up, King Herod. But there was also amongst like the Jewish sects that Jesus operated in, there was their own little groups. So you had the Pharisees and the Sadducees, which we see mentioned throughout the gospel stories. Like the Pharisees, they hated the Sadducees. And they hated the Romans. They just kind of hated everybody, which, I mean, we can look around and see people that just hate everybody.
True.
So, familiar faces.
The Pharisees would hit up Facebook, for sure.
Oh, no. They'd be on there just roasting everybody. But the one thing that they did have going for them, which is also like somebody that we vociferously disagree with on a whole lot of things, can also be right from time to time.
Sure.
They believed in the resurrection, so they had that.
Good point.
They did have that. But they also added a bunch of their own traditions and rules for things. So they would say, not only do you got to follow the law, you got to follow all these 10,000 other things. And if you don't, then you suck. You're not worth. You're just worthless in all the things. The Sadducees, they would be considered like the political elites. They were very conciliatory towards the Romans. They just kind of wanted to be left alone to run the temple. They were mostly made up of priests, not all the priests, but mostly priests. And they did not believe in the resurrection, which was like a huge sticking point between them and the Pharisees. You have the Zealots. I don't know what I would like, what kind of analogy we have to them. Maybe
they were kind of like the Pharisees on
steroids.
On steroids,
yes.
Yeah. Like they hated everyone, and they also wanted to punch them in the face.
Yes.
Probably.
No, I like that.
I don't just hate you, I'm going to take you out.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Like they wanted to overthrow the Romans, but Jesus had one of them as his followers, Simon the Zealot.
Yeah.
Like he was in there, Matthew 10:4, Mark 3:18. So he made it. Like he made it under Jesus' tent. And then the publicans, like they were kind of like the tax collectors, bureaucrats, civil servants. Everybody hated them. I mean, we all hate going to places that are run by the government, and we sometimes.
So I know. Yeah, I see you have Matthew marked as a publican.
Yep, he was a tax collector.
Another face that we might recognize would be Zacchaeus, because he was a tax collector too.
And Matthew wrote the gospel.
Yeah,
first one. Paul was a Pharisee. Forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
So. Like all of these people kind of had, we did see one thing that united all three of them, or at least various members of those different sects.
Yes. They didn't like the Romans.
They didn't like the Romans, but also they united around who Jesus was. So we did see that. Jesus had a big tent, so to speak. I did like this little pair. It's short, but I put the links in the thing for it. This bottom paragraph on Got Questions on this thing. Jesus had more run-ins with the Pharisees than with the Sadducees, probably because of the formers giving preeminence to oral tradition, like, you're going to follow not just my God's law, but all of the other ones. Jesus said you ignore God's laws and substitute your own. And Jesus told them that in several places. Because the Sadducees were often more concerned with politics than religion. Ironic, because they were more concerned with the running of the temple. So thought that was kind of a funny way of putting it. They ignored Jesus until they began to fear he might bring unwanted Roman attention and upset the status quo. It was at that point that the Sadducees and the Pharisees set aside their differences, united, and conspired to put Christ to death, which
common goal.
Our man Pontius Pilate did. So on their behalf. So
well, he tried to not.
He did try to not.
He wanted very much.
But he was kind of blackmailed for political reasons. If you don't do that, then you're no friend to Caesar.
Yeah.
And that was a charge that could carry a heavy consequence. So, I mean, he even wanted to maintain his own political spot. So what did he do? He washed his hands, right?
Oh, bro, it's so good. I get it. Like, he shouldn't have let the crowd influence him, but you have to have a certain level of swag.
Yeah.
To call for a bowl of water and be like, I'm washing my hands of this, and do it in front of everybody. Oh my gosh.
Can you do like the real action of if you were in Pontius Pilate's shoes?
From the beginning, like, bring me the bowl of water.
Fetch me the bowl of water.
Bring me the bowl of water.
Okay, yeah. Honestly, that was good. I'm impressed. There wasn't even anything in that. You had like the pretend droplets.
So that's the political environment that Jesus found himself in.
Sounds there's a lot of familiarity there.
Yes.
Sounds like humans have always been good at making a mess of things.
What?
But I think I think one of the things that brings to mind, like, people are gonna people.
Yeah.
Like, and we've been doing it for a long time. There's
so
really
good at
there's
it.
really nothing there's really nothing new to it except just like the scale and the means that we have to go out and do the people things. Like,
Yep.
we're not that different than what they were.
And I know that there are some things that we can kind of glean from these situations and bring it into how Jesus interacted with politics. And we can kind of bring it into how we choose to engage in politics, because it's not something you can just not make a choice about.
Yes.
You have to be intentional.
And to set up the next half of this conversation, check out this clip.
One of my great frustrations today is that it just seems like the whole world is fighting. We just love to hate each other. And it's easy to blame the politicians, but really, truth be told, all we have to do is open up some social media and see our lack of gentleness is not limited to the local board of supervisors or school board or the state capitol or the nation's capital. Because one might argue that division is a part of democracy, and that might be true, I don't know. But it was never supposed to be a part of the church. And yet hatefulness happens even among people who claim our common identity as people of God, followers of Jesus, saved by his grace, charged with his power, given his mission. How is it possible that people who claim a common devotion to Jesus can be so vicious in our treatment of each other?
I think not a whole lot's changed between what we just kind of outlined and what Pastor Brian got to there. Like, how can people that claim a common unity in Jesus behave so vicious? When we looked at everything in the Old Testament, those people claimed a common identity as the chosen people of God. Yeah. And yet they behaved just as vicious as we do today.
It's really convicting.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I open up my Facebook, and at this point, I feel like I'm friends with more people who are part of our church on Facebook than not. And I'm really not trying to call any of y'all out, but it's like church people getting into it on Facebook over, whoever their candidate is. And I'm like, everybody's got their things that pull that out of them. But just if I could be so bold, for some of y'all, it's politics. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing. So
And I think it's easy to think of the topic as politics as something that social media needs to be full of when it's not necessarily true. Like, if one of my like deep interests that I love to invest time in is like crocheting techniques, I'm not going to post a million things about crocheting because the people that I'm friends with don't necessarily want to hear all about everything I know about crocheting. So like, why is I know it affects all of us, it affects us strongly, but I think the degree to which we bring it to each other's faces and we're like, hey, you agree with this, right? It's just interesting that we do that.
Do you think that's just where people, and like, I mean, we can separate it from church people.
Sure.
Like, I think church people should have their identity rooted in who God says they are. You know, but even some church people, like a good chunk of their identity also comes from what political team they're on. Like, I'm a follower of Jesus. I'm a member of the elephant team, or I'm a member of the donkey team, or the hedgehog team. I saw one of those out there. So, you know, like it's like their identity is split.
Yeah. I think it's a common thing, particularly in America, because of the way that our nation so closely held Christianity with like the start of the nation. I think it's easy for Christians to look on political identity as something that doesn't necessarily contradict their identity of being a child of God because of like the environment that we are all in while living in America.
But our identity and who God says that we are should influence how we treat those that disagree with us. And I think that's where there seems to be a disconnect.
Yes. Yeah.
But it just seems like at some point there's a shift and an inability to just say, you know what, we can disagree on something and we don't have to hate each other.
Yeah.
Like there's no unity around like any guiding things. It's like either we agree on 100% of everything, or I have free reign to just dehumanize, hate, and everything that comes after.
I feel like a big chunk of being able to have that realization is being willing to acknowledge that you don't necessarily have it all figured out.
Yes.
Because if you are assuming that you are always right about stuff, then it makes it that much easier to be judgmental of someone who disagrees with you.
Yeah.
But like, there's a lot I don't know.
Yeah. I think about the like example you just did where you're like showing somebody your whatever post or meme or whatever, and you're like, hey, you agree with this, right? Like when somebody, if somebody does that, they're basically like, are you right like I am, or are you wrong? Like those are basically your options at that point. And if you disagree, then in that person's mind, they know everything they need to about you as a person.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
your answer to that question or your level of agreement or disagreement totally defines who you are.
I interact with a fair amount of people who I would say approach me with that mindset already solidified of this person.
Yes.
Yep.
And I have to be aware, I do invite a lot of it on myself, living where I live, having what I consider to be like pretty mild body modifications. Like I have dyed hair, I have some piercings on my face, I have some tattoos. To me, it feels very mild. But to other people, they can look and see something and immediately associate me with the exact opposite side of the spectrum that they believe in, and just write me off immediately.
Where they've already projected an identity onto you.
Yeah, which like their identity projection might be slightly accurate, it might not be, but that there's no way that projected image of who they think I am could encompass the fullness of my identity as a person. Because I have, like, there's depth to everyone. It's not just political beliefs.
But at some point, there seems to be a line crossed where we just disassociate the fact or the belief, like as followers of Jesus, that even if we do disagree, and I think you're just radically wrong on a whole host of things, the person that's still across from me or the person that's still on the other side of the keys, typing the things that I disagree with, like they still bear the exact same image of God that I do, and just based on that are afforded a base level of respect and graciousness to them, whether they give it to me or not. Like,
Oh, yeah.
we still owe that to them. And I don't know. So where does the shift happen where we look around, we see the things that we all agree are like this, and we speak to the things that Brian talked about right there. Like, where does that shift happen? So what practical steps do we need to take as followers of Jesus to reflect all of that out into the world?
I think that the suggestion or the question that you're bringing up has the first step built in as a suggestion of being able to put in front of your mind that the people on the other side of whatever you're doing are people, and they are uniquely created by God,
Yes.
and that they have value regardless of what their opinions are or regardless of what their actions might be. They are still someone who I had a conversation with Beth one time. I asked her for some advice in how to deal with people that were difficult to love well. And she said
The
that
extra grace required.
yes,
Folks.
she gave me some really great advice, and she said whenever I'm encountering someone with like that, I will, and she's talking about face to face, but she's like, I will put myself into a headspace where I can, before I'm spending time with them, I will consciously think this person has a little bit of divine in them.
Yes.
Not saying like we're all God. No, God created them. We are created in God's image. Therefore, this person holds a little bit of God's characteristics inside of them, even if they're not Christians. Like,
Yes.
Sure.
they are still created in God's image, and if we love God, we have to follow that up with loving the people that God created well.
I think for me, I tend to think of it like the only belief or opinion that I can hold that completely defines who I am as a person is my belief in Jesus.
Yeah.
Every other belief or opinion I might hold falls short of that, meaning it does not have the ability to totally define me or the person I might disagree with for that matter. So if they hold an opinion that I disagree with, that can't shape my entire opinion of who they are as a
Yes.
person. I
Yeah.
have to be willing to look at, well, what are the other pieces, you know?
I think you have to like make a level of importance kind of in your mind of like the most important thing. So like if I'm in the center, the first circle around me is going to be God. So my relationship with God is the most critical thing in my life. And then your next circle out might be your spouse or your best friend or someone that you have some level of closeness with. Maybe even some people might have in that outer circle a little bit of their identity with what they feel like God has called them to do.
Yes.
And hold that closely to them. But then as you go further out, you're establishing there is less importance with this thing that is tied to me. It is not fully my identity. The only thing that is fully 100% my identity is the circle in the middle that has God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I very much like that as a way to visually kind of represent, like where your identity comes from at its core, and then the concentric circles out. I think that's really smart. I think one of the things that I've noticed, and it kind of goes back to something that you mentioned a few minutes ago about, if I go to somebody or they make an assumption, like they're already coming to me assuming that they're right.
Yeah.
And so that ability to be like, okay, I may disagree. Like if I'm having a dialogue with somebody, okay, like we disagree, but is there a chance that they might be right on some part of their argument, even if they're not right on all of it? And from there, you at least have a spot where you can say, okay, I see what you're saying there and I agree with it. Now let's just look at some other things. Or it's just a way to open up that bridge. Because like even the Pharisees, like they may have been wrong on a whole host of things.
Yeah.
They got a pretty big one right. But just because they were on the opposite team, the Sadducees wouldn't have even probably have given, now I'm projecting here, they probably wouldn't have even given them that. Because like we see that all the time. Like somebody, something good might come along, but one team doesn't want the other team to get the win on it. And so they'll just oppose it just because.
Yeah, that's true.
To what you were saying earlier about like arguments on Facebook, if somebody comes to me and expresses an opinion that I don't agree with, it is not my job over the course of that conversation to change their mind.
No.
Even if they're coming to you trying to change your mind.
Yeah, no. I mean, I guess it depends on what it is. Like, if you're actually having a dialogue and seeking to find some understanding, like if somebody just comes to me and says, hey, like, you made a statement the other day, I'd like to unpack it. Like, it's not my job to change their mind.
Yeah.
At that point, it's my job, I think, as someone that's giving this person time and space, to at least elaborate on why I believe what I believe.
Right.
Now, they can say whatever they want.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to change my mind and they don't have to change theirs. But we can still be pals. Like, that's where kind of differentiation comes in.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I hear what you're saying. Like, I don't necessarily agree with you, but, like, we can still be pals. We can still fellowship together. We can still worship together. We can still watch baseball, like, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. We just don't have to agree on everything. Like, that doesn't make you a demon monster person.
Yeah.
Yep.
My parents very much disagree politically, and they did. Like, my entire like when an election cycle would come around, it was war in our house. Like, it was war at the dinner table with the news playing in the background of the TV. But that never impacted who they were as parents or people or their marriage. Like, they, in this particular category, they would argue like cats and dogs, but it didn't seep over into all the other categories.
Yes.
Oh,
you
with
know?
each other.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought you meant with you.
No.
Oh, man.
Oh no.
That's
I just
interesting.
like pulled out my little bucket of popcorn. And, no, they was just them. They had it covered. So
That's funny.
yeah.
All right, so what do we do with this? Like, I know you brought something.
I did. Yeah. So I have I would like to start with just talking about whether your guys' perspective on what is your comfort level with engaging with politics, just to begin with. Are you interested in a way to have a practical tool to possibly reconsider some of your own points of belief, and if they are conflicting with your faith at all? Or is it something that you just prefer to stay away from? Is there value in meeting in the middle there somewhere?
I had a phase where I was very much a political person. I never did the like Facebook debates or talk to anybody about it, if I'm being honest. But like, I stayed plugged into it. I watched all the TV channels. I watched all the debates, all those things. And funnily enough, and I don't think it's a coincidence, around the time where I started getting plugged into church and exploring my relationship with Jesus, that became not an important part of my life anymore. And so I feel like I don't really know how to do the middle ground, if I'm being honest with you. And that's not, uncommon for me as a person. I'm all in or not at all. And so I don't really
That's
know what the middle ground looks like for this. I
can understand that.
Yeah, I'm open to it. I feel like I don't know where to start with it.
Yeah.
No, I went through a phase where, like, I was big time into it, watched all the news channels, and now, like, I'm just much more comfortable just, I don't know, like, I look at the book of, like, Revelation, and, like, a whole, like, the first 7 letters that are in there, like, are all the churches in various degrees of political things. And, I know it's cliche to say, but, like, Jesus wins, like, that's the answer. But I'm much more comfortable just saying, like, I don't know now. But back in the day, no. Like, I had it figured out. Like, I knew all the things. All you had to do is ask me, and I would set everybody straight. But, but as I developed in my faith, like, it just became less important, and it just became where I would just say, yeah, I don't know what to do with that, but I just know that we should probably just talk and listen.
I like the idea of being open to talking and listening and having conversations with people, but I do think, especially for someone who has also gone through an intense portion of time where I might have tied a little bit more of my identity to politics. And I know a lot of people who are, like, legitimately very passionate about politics and representing people in a way of, like, wanting to create the best environment within the county, like, whether it's local leaders or like at the state level. Like, I know that there are people who are passionate about the political process, and it's something that I respect. I respect people who are able to engage in it in a way that is seeking to learn and be educated and understand and take care of the resources that we're given as a nation, but not hold on to it as every single part of their identity, but also submit that belief to their faith and evaluate their beliefs or their, I guess, important topics that they would make decisions based on
Yes.
people's stances to submit that to
I mean, I think
Christ.
that I think there's I guess what always kind of frustrated me was the idea that either the red team has all the answers or the blue team has all the answers. Like, I find that just to be a false
Yeah.
a false choice. Like, there's good in both, but it's that team mentality that I think just kind of always was such a turnoff to me. Like, I know what I believe. Like, I believe some of the people over here are right on some things, and I think some people are over here right on some things. And it seems like it's almost its own religion of its own. Like, it's almost like an idol. Like, I go and worship at the shrine of the donkey or the shrine of the elephant.
Yeah.
And then everything else, all good, all bad. Like, it just seems
Yeah.
it seems like a lot of it to me just is a false choice. So, like, for me, I just figured, and my approach to it was there's good people in both. And so if you can just have conversations and talk and dialogue with people that are willing to, like, search for consensus and common ground, then the better off you're going to be. But so
Yeah.
I kind of landed there.
I feel like you have to also have reliable techniques for how you engage with it. So I have a tool that I'm going to share with us, but before I get to that, I just want to talk about the concept of controlling your access to things. So having as humans, we need mental breaks
Yes.
from stuff all the time. So giving yourself, if it's something that you're passionate about or something that you're curious about, evaluating your relationship with politics, I would say have set times that you engage in either reading news or doing research on political candidates or whatever. Give yourself a time of, this is when I'm engaging in it, and I think that will help you kind of limit your identity. It's interesting because it's the direct opposite of what we are told to do with prayer, which is to
Yes.
pray without ceasing. So you're bringing Jesus into every aspect of your life, and everything else that wants to fight for worship from you of some sort, and is because, like, we're human beings, we're created to worship. If we are not choosing what we're worshiping, we're going to find another idol,
Yes.
by default. So regulating what could be easily could become idols to set times, practicing getting information from, like, reliable sources, and maybe not just when it happens upon you. That's something I do. So, like, I try to not get news or information about political candidates from social media at all, because that is just,
The algorithm hitting you with stuff.
it's encroaching on my time off from politics. Like, that's rude.
That's my crochet time.
Exactly. So I should, like, it's something that I want to seek out. Like, this is the zone that I'm in, and I'm making a conscious choice before I engage with it to submit it before God. In general, I have a really cool tool that helps across all levels of this. And I'm not going to read this entire chapter. This book I have borrowed from Beth, but I'm not gonna, like, put my stamp of this is a good book on it, because this is, like, kind of the only section from it I've read. It's just it's a collection of meditations for renewal. So there's some prayers in here and some things that go into details other than politics, if you're intrigued. So this one is talking about spiritual formation and bringing spiritual formation into your politics. And it is using the prayer of Examen from St. Ignatius of Loyola, who is a prominent church leader in the past. And he has written different prayers to bring into different areas along your journey of spiritual formation, which I know you've had some experience with going through a spiritual formation process with a spiritual director. If anybody is interested in what that looks like, Beth Stoddard, who I think I've mentioned every single time I've been on this podcast, and she's so great. She is our spiritual director here at PCC, and you can reach out and ask some questions if you're interested in getting plugged in with her. But that's her job, and it seems like a really fun job.
It does.
Just to sit with people. So,
Well, just finding out what people believe and why they believe it is just a fascinating thing to do.
I think it's a great way of maturing intentionally maturing yourself in your spirituality and stuff by having a set way to engage with it. So this one is talking about kind of centering yourself before you engage, and like taking a deep breath and reminding yourself of who God is, and having some kind of, you're separating yourself away from all of the crazy. And then you can start by having some engagement in gratitude. And I mean, here in America, part of our gratitude can be thank you for the freedom that we're allowed, but also safety that a lot of people aren't experiencing. And then we can actually pray, and we can say, hey, God, I don't know how many times you guys have thought about this, but that's something I would have never thought about, to pray. God, help me evaluate what I believe, and why do I believe it, and how am I treating other people out of it. And then I think you can go back and review some of the past. So this book happens to have some different questions that you can engage with. I'm going to list some of them off, and if you're interested in the full list, we can link some stuff below. But so these are more like journaling questions, just to get some thoughts going. So what has troubled you about your own engagement in politics? Where did you find joy in your political engagement? How did you love and serve others through your political actions today? Where did you feel challenged, or where did you feel opposition? When you participated in politics, what did you do well? What needs improvement? Be aware of your emotions. How do you think God sees you? How do you think he sees your politics? Where did you notice the presence and movement of God? And then how did you experience God's love? So I think having some intentional questions that you're regularly checking in with yourself can help you create a habit of constantly submitting your political views and how you treat people out of them before God. And then it also has just a couple questions for looking forward. What do you hope for in your own political engagement? What do you desire from God? And how would you like to be formed tomorrow? And I think that that's just a good note there of I would love to end every day thinking about, how do I want to grow up a little bit more tomorrow?
Yeah.
So.
No, I think that's, if you actually ask yourself those questions and then give honest answers, imagine what the world would be like if everybody did that. I bet you, what did you do well? I screamed obscenities at people out on the street.
Maybe work on that tomorrow.
I mean, that might be, maybe I won't do that tomorrow. I don't know. That's a silly example. But, I mean, it's also a real world one. Yeah. So I just think that those questions asked honestly, and then if you practice some brutal self-honesty in your answer of those, would definitely put you in a position to be grown by God.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you're not intentionally choosing to be self-aware about anything and look at it and really examine this aspect, that unfortunately we're humans and we're messy, and the default is to bring our human mess into whatever it is, unless we are choosing to submit it or to improve ourselves in some way through God's grace.
Yeah. I think we have said several times at this point, in different ways, we've said, you can't change somebody else's mind. You can't change how somebody else behaves or what they believe or what they're going to say, any of those things. The only thing we can control is how we engage with it. And something this big that is so pervasive in our society, we want to just wave a wand or whatever and change it, immediately like that. And we just don't have the ability to, but we do have the ability to change it right here. And if each of us will be introspective about it, that's how this will eventually start to turn over. So,
and it's literally a tale as old as time.
Yep.
That we looked at it from where Jesus, the environment that he was in, to this one here. And so, for me, it's just remembering that whoever it is that you're having a conversation with, they bear the exact same image of God that you do. That they've got a spark of the divine in them. They are owed based on that a base level of respect, and being able to ask yourself, or be able to say honestly to yourself, while we may disagree on a lot of things, they may be right on some.
Yeah.
and be willing to actually go into that space where it is uncomfortable and admit that you might be wrong.
Maybe even assume that you are wrong.
Yes. But go in there like it's called like an empty cup. Like I'm here, I'm going to put myself in a spot like you can like to take something away.
Yeah.
Like if you approach every conversation with that type of mindset and attitude and posture, you might just have some sort of breakthrough. And even if you don't, they're no longer just like a dehumanized like person that you disagree with. They're an actual person.
Yeah.
And that will by default necessarily most times change the way that you interact and approach them in the future.
Right.
And get off your dang phone.
Look at somebody in the face.
Yep.
Except when you're watching the after chat.
Hey,
then
true.
be on that phone.
That's why I waited to say it until now.
All right. Are we all good?
I'm good. I think
Yeah.
that was I'm leaving feeling convicted to get better.
Absolutely. And so if you leave us a review, we've got a couple of these going out now.
Nice.
Ooh.
So like we read them. We read reviews. So we've got
Nice.
2 being sent in the mail. They're going to come at you. Let us know. Find us in the Facebook group. We've also got some sweet t-shirts. Bam.
Just his. No, it's just
Yeah.
a plain
Plain
white
shirt.
shirt. Yeah.
But we hope you all took something away
This
from
is
this.
just an old sweatshirt. It's not merch.
Little
Don't
spotty.
look at it. Anyways.
But thank you for being here, Madison.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next week on the After Chat.
Thanks for joining us for The After Chat. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To be the first to hear our next episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button and get notifications for new content. You can also follow us on social media on Instagram at PCC Wired and Facebook at Passion Community Church. For additional resources and links, check out the description. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on The After Chat.